I mean, like, do you remember when the Who's album, It's Hard, came on?
Yes, I love that album.
Yeah, so do I. Like, how could that be a disappointment? That was their number 50th most disappointing album.
Well, they have you seen they come out with the guitarists? Have you seen that?
No. Let's just go. I want to talk about that. That's. So what do you mean they came out with the guitarists?
Like the best guitarist? I think it was Rolling Stone magazine. Okay. I'm almost sure it was. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it because I don't really know for a fact, and I'd have to really look at it. It would
have to be Rolling Stone magazine. Yeah. Are you paying attention to Guitar Magazine and Guitar World and all
No,
those?
I think it's Rolling Stone because everybody likes to fight about Rolling Stone. You know, their lack of credibility.
We never asked this question. So, what is your opinion of Rolling Stone Magazine?
Oh, I mean, I like the articles.
We're off to the races.
I like the articles. No, I don't. I read it and take it with a grain of salt. It's somebody's opinion. It's just like going to see a concert. I might have seen Rush and absolutely loved everything they did. And then you read somebody's review and they just, this was bad, that was bad, this wasn't up to par. So
do you think that you and I might be just a little too young for the pure Rolling Stone magazine fan?
No.
You don't
Not
think?
too young. No.
Because I think it was like late 60s or was it early 70s that they hit their heyday or they started.
I would say probably their mid-70s is when they were in their heyday.
Weren't they in that movie, though, with...
Almost Famous.
Oh, yeah.
That was Cameron Crowe that was based on.
So what year was that based? 75, 73?
Yeah, probably in the mid-70s, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was a little earlier than that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking, when I think of Rolling Stone, I'm thinking about, okay, what artist did I like that made the cover?
Oh.
You know, Springsteen. They did Peter Frampton with the Red Suspender Awards. The John Lennon and Yoko Ono with him naked holding her.
Right.
Those are the things I remember. Whether that was their heyday, I don't know. But, Springsteen, ice skating, I still have. I mean, they're just ones that I had growing up as a kid that just are ingrained into my head.
That Jan Wenner, I guess, is the guy who started it.
Yeah.
Is that am I pronouncing his name right? He's not... A lot of hard rock fans, a lot of Kiss fans can't stand that guy for the bias.
He's not. I don't think he has anything to do with Rolling Stone anymore.
Bias. I mean, I think it took Kiss 35 years, 40 years to make the cover of that magazine.
Right. And I don't know for a fact, but I think Depeche Mode's going to be on the next cover.
Oh, really?
About time.
Well, yeah, I would say it's long about time. But another band in that genre I want to ask you about is The Cure. Like, what's going on with the ticket thing?
God bless Robert Smith.
What's going on with that?
Well, Robert Smith wanted to keep realizing we're coming out of a pandemic here. People don't have the money to blow on concert tickets and stuff. Now, here's a band. They haven't been here since 1996 or 97, something like that. So it's been a long time.
I know that.
They're not coming here. They're coming to Cleveland.
Yeah.
They're in Philly, Baltimore, I believe.
City tax.
But the thing about it is that, they could really go ahead and charge a lot of money because I really do think that 100%. People would know, and this is probably more than likely their last tour, could be, I don't know.
Right.
But so Robert wanted to be sure that the ticket prices were reasonably priced for fans and that they didn't have to jump through hoops. The Taylor Swift thing just really frightened a lot of artists.
Unpack that for me. What happened there? Because I missed it.
Well, I believe my opinion is that they do these fan pre-sales and they give out a code, and I think too many people got the code. Okay. So when they did the pre-sale, everybody, you have young girls.
Right.
I mean, I love her. She's absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I think, all these moms that were promising their daughters and kids, tickets, got their hands on the code, and then when the tickets went on sale, it was so many people were trying to get tickets. The system crashed. They were in the queue waiting. And then all of a sudden their queue spot disappeared and they couldn't get tickets. And even with I don't think they did the verified fan thing for that show. But people were left high and dry and pretty much the show sold out. When it came time for the actual general sales to go on, there were no tickets left.
So when
they had to cancel it.
When you got the code, were they implying that guaranteed you a ticket?
It doesn't guarantee you a ticket, but it gets you an opportunity to win to buy the tickets before the general public sale.
Oh,
so it's my personal opinion. I don't know anything more about Taylor Swift's situation other than how did so many people get this code? and the tickets were pretty much wiped out. I mean, my niece just saw her in Arizona last weekend. 70,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
She played over 3 hours, 44 songs, and my niece was like, Aunt Cris, you are going to love her. She
Let's get your money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. She's very talented. But going back to the Cure thing, I think, with seeing what is going on, he didn't want people to spend a ton of money on tickets. So he, through Ticketmaster, did the verified fan thing where I had to sign up, give my name, my address, my email address.
Okay.
And then you got an email saying, we received your verified fan email.
Okay.
Like the day before the show, if we pick you, you will get a code that will give you access to purchase tickets. Doesn't guarantee it, but it'll give you a code.
Okay.
So I'm waiting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to see the Cure. And then here, like at 5:30 that night, I get an email saying, we've approved you for verified fan. Look for your code. Well, it's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God. I'm reaching out to people on my Facebook page. Did anybody else get the code? And finally, I got the code. So I'm up at 10 o'clock. I got my computer ready to go.
That's great.
And so I'm in the queue, and there's like 358 people ahead of me, and I'm like, with all these shows, I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking at my husband, I'm gonna get great seats. This is awesome. So here, the tickets go on sale. It's my turn to buy the tickets. So I see I'm hitting spots in Blossom that I want, and as I'm putting, I thought I only had to put my code in once, but as I'm picking tickets, I have to keep putting the code in. Thank God I saved it.
Yeah.
My hands are shaking. I'm typing the wrong letters. I'm like, oh, and as I'm typing, the letters, Eric, are disappearing because my seats are going. And I'm like, oh dear God. And my husband's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm never going to get to see the Cure. And so I picked these 2 seats, and I typed the queue in really fast, and I got them. And I'm 22 rows back.
Oh, wow. Get out.
So I was like, woohoo.
Okay.
So I got tickets to the Cure.
Oh, right on.
So I'm all excited about that. But as I'm looking over, my tickets were $80 a piece.
Okay.
And I'm like, I choke saying this. Yeah. That's really reasonably priced.
It is.
It's not. Well, but I mean,
it is.
When I post all of the concert tickets of shows I've seen in the last 40 years, when they're $8.75 and $11.95, that's the one thing everybody comments on. Oh my God, if we could only have concert tickets that cheap again. So $80 was, I thought, pretty reasonably priced. But as I look at the fees, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm paying $160 for 2 tickets, but I'm paying $47 in fees. That's not right. That doesn't seem fair. So people are on Twitter and on Facebook, and they're taking pictures, screenshots of their phones, and hey, I bought 2 lawn tickets for $20, which $20 for a lawn ticket. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
Yep.
But they were paying like $40 for fees.
Of course they are.
And so lo and behold, and I mean, I've met Robert Smith, and he's a very backward guy. I mean, just very quickly.
He's different.
But he's very shy. Yeah. Very unassuming. Well, I guess him and his team were watching what people were saying on Twitter and Facebook, and he's seeing people's snapshots and screenshots of what's going on, and he's like, no, this isn't part of the deal.
Good for him.
You can't just start charging all these people all these fees for these concert tickets. So he went back and worked it out with Ticketmaster, and he goes, I apologize. And I thought maybe it was just me, the way I was doing the fan thing with the code, that I'm like, am I just like getting too old that I don't get tech? And I'm pretty techie. But as it turns out, everybody says I had the same problem. As I was typing my code in, it was disappearing because those seats were being taken.
Yeah.
So that was the big issue I had with how that was done. But it seems to me, once you got the code, and you should have been able to pick whatever seat you wanted, boom, and then it should have given you 2 tickets, $80, whatever. But so here, he went to Ticketmaster and said, no, this is wrong. You can't be charging this. So Ticketmaster is going back. I got my email yesterday saying that I will get $10 credited to my account for
that is crazy
for the Ticketmaster charge. Yeah. And I'm like, God bless this man. And I hope that other people are paying attention. I mean, Peter Gabriel tickets went on sale. Well, they don't go on sale till Friday, but the pre-sale went yesterday, and somebody reached out to me and said that my tickets, I got great seats, they were only $50. And I'm like, is it just the alternative artists that are concerned about their fans overpaying for concert tickets? Or
speaking of concert tickets, I'm not going to the show, but I'm sure you're well aware that the final 50 Kiss shows supposedly have been announced.
You don't believe that? Come on.
No,
you don't. No, my husband says the same thing. I'm like, no, Ron, I really do think this is it.
I think that their intention, especially Mr. Stanley's intention, is for it to be over. But I do think that there will be a Vegas residency 6 months after this.
Really, with them, not some. There's been talk about them taking the band out, I don't believe but it won't be them.
I don't believe that'll ever happen. I think that band will die off with our generation.
Yeah.
For the most part, their financial wherewithal. So I don't see them going and adopting a new generation with fake members, and I just don't. Who knows? I don't think so.
With fake members,
they got two already.
You're a cover band. You're no different than Mr. Speed or the other bands that have been doing this for eons. Job, by the way. Yeah, they're fabulous.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're a cover band. Skinner's coming to town. There's not an original member left of Skinner. God rest Gary Rosington's soul. It is sad. I mean, when he died, I was just in my eyes.
It was the final nail, almost, wasn't it?
It's the end of the era. It's an end of an era.
Yeah.
With that band.
Yeah, and it's Johnny, this singer, right? The son of the brother, the younger brother of Ronnie, right? But Johnny and Johnny's been there, and I look at Johnny as Skinner, but it's without the rest of. Right,
and the guitar player. Oh gosh,
Ricky Medlock. But I mean, he was a Blackfoot. He wasn't an original member.
Exactly, of course.
But he's so good.
But I mean, he's been touring with them for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And then you look at Artemis Pyle, maybe not an original member, but he was with Skynyrd when they were at the Schnizzle.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
I like him.
I do too.
I think he just seems like a cool guy.
I did well. It's kind of hard not to like. I've never been able to dislike any member of Skinner for the most part. I mean, Dickie. Well, no, not Dickie. It's the Allman Brothers. I keep confusing Dickie Betts with Skinner for some reason, and not the Allmans. I don't know why I do that.
You've just lost the show.
Well, I know. I'm sorry. Dickie Betts was an interesting one for me because I always loved Allman Brothers, and then I always believed he was just like this great guy, and then you hear and you read things, you're like, oh man. Even in Southern rock. The greed of money and the jealousy of money is strong.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's unbelievable.
It's sad.
It is sad.
Look at the demise of how many great bands or artists over money. Mm-hmm. When it all comes down to it. There are those bands that have their substance abuse, and if you want to look at like what went with Ace and
Peter.
I mean, that's an issue. I mean, these guys were focused. This is what they wanted to do. This is what they wanted to achieve and accomplish. And those their drinking and drug use or whatever got in the way.
But it's funny that 100%. But isn't music interesting in entertainment because the focus and drive pushed Gene and Paul to create a different version of Kiss and continue. It did, and they made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's like the magic was with the inclusion, at least of Ace. Peter, okay. But the magic happened, I think, with all four, but especially with those three.
I honestly, in my own personal opinion, I don't know how you do these last two shows at Madison Square Garden in December and you don't include Ace to come out and play a song or Peter come out and sing Beth or something. If you really are calling this is the final show. And I get it. I love them on Howard Stern. I mean, God bless that man. He can really pull
I thought it was good.
Great things out of people, but he has the time.
Format,
and he has all the time in the world. It's his show. He doesn't have to break for commercials like terrestrial radio.
Right.
And I think with being able to talk freely, people feel more comfortable just chatting. You know what I mean? Where they don't have to worry about, I can't say this or I can't say that.
Takeaways out of that? Did you learn anything listening to that?
Absolutely. I mean, just Gene's whole growing up about his dad and how he still took care of his dad and his dad left him and his mom. I read his book, Paul just, I really think Paul is a lot of the drive behind them. I mean, Gene takes a lot of the, you can get the Kiss casket for, $19.99, but I do think
he's a carnival
marker. The face of that type of stuff. But I really do think that Paul, after hearing that, Paul really was maybe the real drive.
I think it was, from what I understand it, some from Paul directly, but just being aware of and reading and listening to people, it sounds like there was always this big push and pull tug there. And, I think the 80s, I think Gene almost kind of walked away from it. He wanted to do movies and do other stuff, and Stanley kept pushing the band forward.
Right.
And just told Gene, you got to do it or not do it.
Yeah.
Thank God they did it. I just think it was a great opportunity to bring Ace back for this tour. I think Ace was healthy enough. I think he was. Maybe there's a money issue. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think Frehley was healthy enough to do it. But
I say this, you know these guys better than I do. Don't they owe it to their fans? Just if people, let's face it.
They don't seem like they care, though.
I know, but I look at it this way. It's like you're putting on the show. It's in New York City. Mm-hmm. People are flying in from probably all over the world. You're paying for concert ticket, hotel room, blah, blah, blah.
$8,000 a ticket.
What is it?
$8,000.
Oh, my God, you're kidding.
I saw tickets on the ground level. They were $14,000 a piece or something.
Wow.
That cannot be the first 20 rows. The first 20 rows are going to be just off the chart nuts.
Yeah, that'll be their VIP.
They also missed a great opportunity on this tour because I think that a lot of folks that dug Kiss in the 70s and moved away from the band would have come to this final show had at least Ace, been part of this.
I agree. If you're going to do a farewell
concert,
do it. At least have them come out and play one song. Have Peter sing.
I would hope that's going to happen. Are they saying it's not going to happen now?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying. If you really want to, we're Kiss, we're done. This is it.
Yeah, but what do you do with Bruce Kulick then? He should be part of that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm not saying play the whole
even
show.
Even that goofy Vinnie Vince, as much as I despise that guy.
Yeah, as far as Bruce, he just steps back for one song, plays rhythm or whatever, and let Ace play a guitar lead and sing a little background. And that, I'm not saying play the whole show.
No.
I'm just saying one song.
Yeah. I just think they missed an opportunity with Ace. Ace was, I think he was capable of going on and doing this farewell show.
Yeah.
This tour, rather. I think that. Yeah. I don't know. But the tickets are just so unbelievable.
I didn't realize. Yeah, I had not heard how expensive they were. Just stick around on the web.
You'll be kind of stunned by some of the prices.
So I said to my husband, maybe we should go. $8,000. No, I don't.
I guess my thing
I'm redoing my kitchen. I need that money.
I just don't know what's going to be so different about that concert than the show a week earlier. It will be special because they may say different things into the mic at some point, maybe.
But how many people will go to the show that aren't really even Kiss fans? Maybe. They're Hollywood people, or
that's the first 20 rows are going to be.
Yeah, but it's people that maybe don't really like Kiss, but it's a place to be. It's a place to be seen. That type of thing, where I know like somebody like Sebastian Bach is a huge Kiss fan. Mm-hmm. I would expect him to be there, or other, artists that, that loved Kiss growing up and stuff. But they influenced a lot of bands, just like the Beatles influenced so many people,
100%. Yeah. And I look at it like there was just, for the fans, this last tour could have been handled entirely different. Yeah. That's why I say, is this the last Kiss show? I don't know.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that from you.
No, I'm just not. Yeah. I'm not, because it can always be couched in so many ways. Like, hypothetically speaking, they're rolling up on the 50th year.
Right.
Coincidentally.
Correct.
So last 50 shows, 50th year, and the final show is on this date. Okay, but they could always come back a year from now and do the 50th anniversary tour. It's like,
Oh, of course. But do they get taken to task because of that? I remember.
Did the crew?
On Howard Stern, Paul saying, well, listen, this was our farewell tour, but COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And then there was a year and a half, 2 years, True. We weren't able to do stuff, and we were able to fit. I remember working on the air at WDVE when they were out at Star Lake, and people were waiting in line, and they canceled the show because Paul or somebody tested positive for COVID, and I believe it was Paul and some other people in the entourage, and but those shows got canceled. So I see that. But when you're saying this is the farewell show, these are the last two dates. And that was the funniest thing with the interview with Howard Stern. They couldn't have been on 3 minutes, and Paul said the final shows December 1st and December 2nd, whatever the dates are. And I'm thinking to myself, I look at my husband, I'm like, you don't do that. You keep people listening and listening and listening till the very bitter end. And then that's when you say, the last 2 dates are going to be December whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that. So he actually announced the final show.
He was talking to Howard in the beginning.
I didn't know that.
It just sounded to me
didn't know that.
That
I thought
Gene had daggers at him. Like, dude, what did you just do?
He blew the anticipation. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, they talked for, 2 hours?
He might not care anymore.
I don't know if people noticed, but I'm like, I look at my husband, I'm like, you don't do that. You at least, let people sit through the interview and let them listen. And then towards the end, then you...
And everything that
then the surprise
I know
happens.
from a very far distance about that whole thing, he could have done that entirely on purpose, just
sure.
to piss Gene off.
Sure. What were they fighting over? What song was it that they were both fighting over that they said they wrote?
Which one?
During the interview, they kept jabbering at each other on Deuce, or I can't remember what song it was.
In terms of credit?
Yeah, like, no, I wrote it. I think
Deuce is the one that's always been the...
And the one, they would be like, hey, blah, and I wrote Deuce. And then Gene would be like, oh, I wrote Deuce.
Well, Paul wrote God of Thunder. That's the thing.
Right,
and there's a demo version of that, I think, on the Kiss box set from the 90s or something, where it's a very interesting version of that. Let's touch on disappointment.
Okay.
As a rock fan, a little bit. So we've printed out all kinds of stuff here, which I'm probably not even going to reference. I wanted to see what the Rolling Stone or whether other big lists of like the most disappointing albums from great bands over the last couple decades.
Right.
But let's be more specific to you and to maybe me, and talking a little bit about our disappointment with in our memory.
Yeah, I can honestly...
You're so positive all the time when it comes to music. It's almost it's almost like, do you have any disappointing moments?
Gee whiz. Not really. I mean...
so every album...
like The Who,
all?
The Who, It's Hard was one I think the Rolling Stones said sucked.
Yeah.
And it was just like, no, that was my college year radio.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, no, I try to see the good in all of it. I mean, and I know we've talked about this multiple times, is, getting that record and waiting for it and, saving up your, paper money or waitressing money, whatever you did to make money when you were a kid or younger, teenager. And you'd get that record and you'd come home and you put it on, maybe put your headphones on, or your parents weren't home, you crank it up, and then you get out the liner notes and you read everything and you learn everything.
You could smell it. I still know what those old albums smelled like.
And the Eagles always had something written on the inside of their albums, like, okay, I get the light right, and what does it say? But when I listened to the records, it was always like, okay, I spent this money on this album, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to enjoy it. Right. I don't care how bad it is.
Right.
I'll find the good in all of it. And I've always been like that. I mean, I can honestly say it's going to take me a while to think of something that I put on. I was like, oh my God, this sucks. I don't know. I don't really know.
That's a statement.
Yeah. I mean, if I think of my favorite bands, Queen, loved everything they put out.
Well, one of the album that came out in '82, I guess.
Hot Space.
Yeah, that was listed on here.
Yeah. Okay, that
that had dance songs that were very, very popular. Wasn't there some dance songs on there? Some like R&B style songs on there. Was it Body Language? It was
Body Language might have been on that. Under Pressure was on
Under Pressure. I mean,
just for that song alone,
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. Like, I look at Daryl Hall and John Oates. I don't think they've ever put out a bad album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Journey. Anything past Steve Perry, yes. Not a fan, don't listen to it.
You mean the fake Steve Perry?
Yeah. Are we going to do there again? But I'm trying to think, like Pablo Cruz. I love Pablo Cruz. I love everything they put out.
Me too.
Even they got into like Out of Our Hands. It was a little bit more disco. But I still found what I liked about it. I mean, there was still good in it, and songs that, I hear now, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm listening to this.
There wasn't one band you loved that you got a record as a kid, or maybe as a, I don't know, maybe a early 20s that you used to like, wow, what the hell are they doing?
Well, I mean, I think in our age group, so many bands rocked and then they got into that little bit of that disco kind of thing.
I got one big one for me.
When I think of Daryl Hall and John Oates, they had an album called Ecstatic that came out in '79, I believe.
I'm familiar with it.
And that was portable radio and had a disco beat to it, but
that's what was selling.
Still loved it. Still find the good in it. And then, the next thing they're on to, Voices or whatever, and they're back to their Blue-Eyed Soul groove. So Pablo Cruz, they had a couple tunes that part of the game that were kind of disco sounding. And I just think it was that weird late 70s where, the Stones Shattered or whatever, trying to get into okay, this is what everybody's getting. That's what was getting airplay. The
Stone stuff still was good though. It's weird, right?
Of course, right. and even Tattoo You was 81.
No, they had a weird album in 76, almost pre-disco, at the beginning of disco, where they had that song Hot Stuff. And Jagger was rolling out of the early 70s, and he had this weird. Remember the video from that thing? Look that up. Hot Stuff. It's a weird one.
But that album was all strange. Those bands kind of went through that. Queen did too, because that's what was.
Rush didn't.
Of course not. Come on, but then a lot of people didn't like the keyboards and stuff like that. Some people.
They got late 80s.
I get people that'll tell me, Cris, I can't stand Rush. And I'm like,
I know. Wow. I'm like, what the hell? I always say, I'm sorry, not feeling well. Hope things get better for you.
But I'm like, hey, that's fine. Or they'll say, God, I can't stand Queen. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we're some weird biases.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't want to say what band I don't like when I hear them on the radio, but it's just like, I'm shocked. That's like, and they're big bands, and it's like, okay, Rush is
unique voice,
but they're guys that tell me
signatures.
this.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, they're not just a 3-4 band, guys. They're
but some people just want that. I think people that love music on the peripheral don't want to do the deeper dive it takes to enjoy that.
When you look at Kiss's music's all 50s. It's all 50s style, very basic,
pretty much.
So
it's heavy metal blues,
exactly. So, but like Rush is like, whoa, they're pretty intense. They're very good musicians.
Do you see the connection with them? Yes, because they always talk about it. But I don't.
When I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony when Journey got in 2017 in New York, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson inducted. Yes, great band. Yes, I see a lot of them. A lot of Chris Squire. The way Chris Squire played his bass is the way Geddy Lee kind of plays his bass. Yeah. I remember a lot of Yes fans were put off by the very commercially successful Yes album from '83. Yeah,
Owner of a Lonely Heart.
90125.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was.
I thought that album rocked.
Oh my gosh,
that. But a lot of traditional Yes fans.
It was Trevor Rabin singing, and a lot of people was like, "That's not Yes if it's not John Anderson." That album's fabulous. But I think it's just what is. You have those bands that are like, nope, this is what we're doing. We're not gonna fringe off of playing rock. And then you had some of those bands that were like, okay, the disco is in, they're maybe at the end of their record label contract and they're just looking for a hit or whatever. Right. And that was what was popular on the radio and, and clubs and stuff. Yeah. And,
So for me as a kid, naturally, it was, the Kiss did Rock and Roll Over, then Love Gun, then his 4 solo albums. Right. The next album was the big disco album everybody hated, but Dynasty didn't offend me because I thought Ace had some great solos in that I Was Made for Loving You song. The bass line was weird.
That's their biggest song.
I know, right?
And I hate to tell people, that's freaking disco, kids.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the rest of the album, I thought, really had some good moments. It was the next record that pissed me off, the one called Unmasked. That had,
yes.
Because that was like a combination of disco and pure pop.
Yeah.
There was no guts to that. So that was the one that kind of lost me for a while with them. Because AC/DC, that time, Back in Black came out in 80, same year, which changed the dynamic. And Van Halen was really hitting her stride by then. So it was changing the dynamic of what hard rock was.
Yeah.
That was one that I was like, wow, man, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Because the cartoon front on that album cover was just like the record. It was cartoonish, and the record sounded like a cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, when you even look at Van Halen, I mean, with David Lee Roth, I don't think there was a bad record with them.
I don't either. And I think Dancing in the Streets lost some folks. I think, was the Diver Down?
That was Diver Down,
That was
81.
the one I think that some people said there was too many synths in there.
Yeah, but, I mean, Jump. I mean, come on. That was probably the album
biggest ever for them.
Right, but I was just like, ugh.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I mean, just Jump.
That was interesting. Yeah, because Panama was pretty slim, and there was some other stuff on there.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it's just like, and even though they had the video and the cameras at the end of the keyboard, and there's Eddie playing with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth or whatever, it was still like...
That is so great.
No.
It didn't have the guts. It didn't have like the punch in the guts.
Take the keyboard out of it and let it be, and maybe it would sound like a completely different song.
Yeah, you take that and then you listen to the very first record and you hear "Running with the Devil."
Oh my God!
Talking about love, it's like there's no comparison.
Right. I mean, that was a fabulous debut album.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it prior. That AC/DC's no, that wasn't debut album. What am I thinking? That was the first album with Brian Johnson.
Back in Black, yeah.
But yeah, I just remember, I really remember this distinctly. A kid gave me, in 76, he gave me 2112 and Destroyer, and all of a sudden, all my mother's music kind of went away. I found my thing. But the next year, this kid gave me Van Halen in 77, I think, or was it 78, the first record. And I put that on, and I'm looking at that album cover, and it's this guy doing a back bend on the back cover, with leather pants. And I'm like, and I just heard that guitar. I'm like, all the rules are off right now.
Sure.
That doesn't sound like Richie Blackmore. It doesn't sound like Jimmy Page. That sounds like something I never heard of before.
Right. You knew when you listened to that album, it was just like, what the heck is this? Because it's, like you said, it didn't sound like anything else. It was no Deep Purple. Didn't sound like anything on Machine Head, which, is a great guitar-based album. But yeah, I mean, with that one, it was like, wow, who is this? What is this? And where's this guy been?
Yeah, what about the 80s? Like, was the 80s an era that there were enough changes within the band, or once these bands found their way in the 80s, they came and they arrived, they kind of rode that rock/electronic thing out? Do you know what I mean? Because I think of the 80s, that's all I think of is like really where synths connected with guitar and in a very over-processed sound.
Right. And then you had the ballads.
Oh yeah. Power ballads.
And I mean, it was almost like every band felt like, oh my God, we've got to write one of these. And honestly, for a lot of those hair bands, their power ballad was probably their biggest hit for some of them, not everybody. Right. But I mean, I think when you're looking at the synths and the guitars and all that stuff, it's like, ooh, we got to come up with a power ballad. Yeah, we'll start off with some keyboards, like Home Sweet Home.
Yeah.
Do, and then a little guitar in the middle of it, and then end it with a keyboard. But that was like the formula. I'm not saying Motley Crue's song was the formula, but that was like the formula for every band that, came along in the mid to late 80s that were like hair bands.
Right.
Warrant had one.
Right.
Kix had one. Don't Close Your Eyes.
Yep. Slaughter.
All of them did.
Yep. Def Leppard was like a powerhouse in the 80s too.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that was pretty heavy. Like when it first, I thought that it was polished, but it was like pretty heavy.
Mutt Lange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another band too I saw in here that had a bad album. They said that Bon Jovi's, was it the Fahrenheit album, 7800 Fahrenheit, which I think was the one that was right before Slippery When Wet. And I thought that album, I think that was before. I think that album, that had the song In and Out of Love. And I thought that was so slamming. When I heard that, I thought that was every bit as good.
Yeah, but remember, Rolling Stone has not always been great to Bon Jovi either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean,
what's going on with him? Have you seen any of that stuff? Does he have a tonal issue? Has he lost his voice?
John Bon Jovi?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you seen any of that?
I don't know. I saw him doing something. It was some kind of... It might have been during the pandemic where they were doing some kind of show to raise money for whatever.
Okay.
And he was on like a pier in New Jersey singing, and I can't even remember what song it was. And I doing something Oh my God.
His last tour, then you need to just, whatever you heard there, fast forward a year, he did go on this tour last year, and I think it was cut short. It was almost like he was singing in a different key. And at that point, you're thinking, well, maybe something's wrong. He's not getting
the last time I saw them was right before Richie left.
Okay.
And I mean, you could tell there was something going on. There was no spark from him, not his usual, hey, Pittsburgh. And they had like a stage that had like the ego stage, but it was like you could walk out around.
Yeah.
And
but did he sound okay then?
He didn't sound bad, but you could just tell. I mean, you could cut the tension with a knife. There was something
someone else told me exactly the same thing
going on between the two of them. There was no cohesiveness. There was no getting up next to each other and singing and stuff like
that's
that.
That's magic. You need that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I've never honestly walked out of a show. I walked out of that one.
I was just going to go there. I was going to say,
I was like, this is bad. This is really bad. Right, and I never walk out of a show. And I actually walked around the upper corridor of the arena, PPG Paints Arena. I would assume that's what I guess. I can't remember. But I looked at how expensive T-shirts were, and bandanas were like $40. I'm like, $40 for a bandana? You got to be kidding me, And I was just like, I'm done. I'm out. And then I haven't seen him since. And it's not like I don't like him, and I don't like the band, but I just was like, wow, something definitely is going on. And then shortly afterwards, Richie left. Well, it's just John Bon Jovi. It's him.
I mean, the rest of the band
are hired guns. Yes.
Like that Tico guy, the drummer, he's gone?
No, they're part of the band, but it's...
Oh, I did not know what you mean financially.
Yes. Like Glenn Fry and Don Henley were the Eagles. Right. Joe Walsh is a hired gun or a paid,
it's like Gene and Paul,
paid employee.
Kiss,
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, Don Felder was like that. And Don Felder's like, excuse me, I don't think so. And that's when things got ugly.
Got it.
And I believe that John Bon Jovi's the same way, because when he did something with 60 Minutes a while back, this was a couple years ago, he was like, well, it's John Bon Jovi, my name's in the band, and I make all the decisions, and everybody else.
Has it always been that way?
No. Just probably within the last 10 years, 15 years.
So he would have had to probably buy out the other.
Exactly.
See, and at that point, well, I mean, the family.
But I mean, the guys are still with him, so it might not be a bad situation where they're still getting paid well and stuff. But
it took their lump sum money, and still they're never being paid for their performance.
Right. So I don't know how that works with everybody. I think everybody's different, but I believe that's how it is now. That he is Bon Jovi, and they are paid.
Well, I think that's why Ace is not with them, because Ace demanded that Paul and Gene pay him like an equal share of this or whatever. And he's like, well, we're not going to do that. You've been out for so long.
Right.
I mean, the money part of it always ruins everything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like...
How much is enough? For some of these artists, how much do you possibly need?
I would love to answer that question. I mean, obviously, it's beyond money at some point.
If you played the lottery,
right?
and you won $1 million... or let's say $3 million. Million maybe might not be that much. $3 million. And that's the Powerball, and you only had 5 numbers. And the extra number, the Powerball number, would have given you $10 million. Right. Would you be bitter?
No.
That you just won 3 and not 10?
No.
I mean, you think about it, it's like, oh, that's my luck. But you move on. You have $3 million. I mean, you can live comfortably on $3 million. But with some of these people, how much money do you possibly need?
And my thing is, like, I'm for somebody earning as much as they want, but I would caution, like, are you doing it at the expense of your peace of mind or your sphere of people that you love in your life? If you're affecting those people, or you're and I think that happens often.
Or are you taking advantage of fans at this point? The people that brought you to the dance.
I think a lot of them feel like, well, listen, if I'm putting this product out there and they keep coming.
Yeah,
and they're not.
That's that positive side of me. It's like, come on.
Oh no, I get it, and I think I have come more your direction over the years. Maybe I'm more of a sentimentalist now too, because like in this Kiss thing, I haven't seen a Kiss show since I was working with them, and I've had opportunities to go, but I just seen my fair share of it. I think. Well, we might disagree on this. I think if you love a band, maybe you could always see them forever. I had so much of that band in a short period of time because it was work related as well.
Right.
I had kind of gotten my fill, and I felt like I'd been bludgeoned over the head so many
and
times.
You've seen the turning back the curtain of The Wizard of Oz.
I saw a little bit of it. And it's and well, you've been on. I mean, you've announced bands. You've been up on that stage. The thing that the fan doesn't see oftentimes is the inner working of how that stage goes together, and it's an unvarnished look because the fan should see this spectacle.
Right.
When you go side stage a little bit and you look and you see I remember just seeing how beat up on this one Kiss tour, 2011, they did a mini tour or whatever. So they had the B stage or maybe the C stage out with them, and this stuff was beat up and I'm like, oh, it looks great from the 30 rows back.
Right.
When you get close to it, it's like, wow, this is the business of rock and roll.
Yeah, but I mean,
masking tape holding shit together.
And honestly, it's the crew. God bless the
to keep it together.
The crews that put that thing. I mean, Jackson Browne wrote that song. Load out and stay, and he was absolutely right. The way that you wake up in another town, but they're the ones who put it all together.
I've always been the belief, not just Kiss, but a lot of big bands. They generally, I don't know if the road crews are always treated that great. In the end, know.
Some are, but I'm sure.
I would hope so.
Yeah, we'd hope for the people that have been with them for a long time that they get treated well. And it for some, it does seem like seeing bands over the years and seeing some of the same faces backstage, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool that he's still with them, or somebody takes me up on stage and adjusts the mic so I can do the announcements or whatever. Cool. I knew that guy from the last 4 tours. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool that he's still here.
If they're sticking around, they're probably being treated well.
Right.
Let me go back to Led Zeppelin. We're all over the place here. Led Zeppelin, when In Through the Outdoor came out in December of '78, do you have any recollections of?
Oh, absolutely.
So were you?
Loved it.
Me too.
I was never disappointed by anything Zeppelin put out. No, I loved.
Did you think it sounded a little different?
Oh, of course. That was a little bit more.
His presence was weird too, though.
A little bit more keyboard oriented, for some of the stuff. But no, I wasn't disappointed at all. And not to mention, you had the inside of the thing that you could paint. You could put water on it and it would turn colors.
That's right.
Did you know that?
And they had 5 different covers, right, or something? And they were all wrapped in brown paper bag.
Right. But the inside was the guy at the bar. And it was like white, and it looked like it was whitewashed. And then apparently you could put water. I'm like, I am not putting water on my record album and ruining my Led Zeppelin song. It ain't happening.
Yeah, but that's in here too, like a very big disappointing record. And I was like, wow. I mean, if anything, it was better than Presence. I mean, in terms of like the quality of songwriting, the production, and some of Jimmy Page's guitar work on that record. I think, and he wasn't in the best physical condition, I don't think, at that time. But I was like, wow, how could that be a disappointment? There was a hit
off there. Is it just
there.
Hot Dog that kind of took that one to the?
Yeah, that was like
for people. I realized a lot of people were like, what is this?
Well,
because it's a foot stomp and country kind of song, but it's like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, remember Coda was released after
Bonham died. Yeah.
Did you get anything out of that record? Because I was so bummed that he was gone and like they had disbanded. I just kind of ignored it, really.
Yeah, I kind of did too.
I mean, but In Through the Outdoor, when I heard In the Evening on you folks playing it on DV, I was just like, wait, what is that?
Yeah, Southbound Suarez.
Yeah, another good one. Yeah, and then All of My Love was like their ballad, right?
Right.
That was a big hit for them. That was a pop radio hit too for Zeppelin. Outside of Stairway to Heaven, probably the only one they ever had.
Well, I mean, the '70s, a lot of the '70s stuff made the charts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's some pretty heavy stuff to make the charts.
Black Dog, Rock and Roll. Those
made
songs.
even like the pop stations, like AM radio back then. Mm-hmm. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Remember 13Q?
Sure. I listened to the new sound of 13Q, and then you'd answer the phone that way, and then your dad's friend would be calling. Right. Oh my God, you've just won money! Right. And then you'd freak out, and then you'd be like, "This is Reach." I'm like,
I said the same thing. My mom had me answering the phone that way as a kid, and people would answer the phone. You do you?
Yeah.
I'm like,
and it's like at home with brothers and sisters, we're all fighting over the phone, like. Fighting with it, like, okay, who's gonna say it? Like, and we're like ripping it out of each other's hands. Oh, I listen to the new sound of 13Q.
But think how powerful that marketing campaign was.
And they were only around for a little while. Yeah, and then what was it? Every Tuesday, if I recall correctly, they would put out a pamphlet that you could get like at record stores that would give you the charts. And then they would put the lyrics to one song that was in the charts, and then sometimes it would be in the paper too. Yeah, I don't know why I remember that.
Back to worst concerts. I have to believe it's got to be another
we are
concert.
all over the place.
Yeah, I don't care. That's what we do here. It's called podcasting, especially around here. So you didn't like the Bon Jovi. Did you ever walk out of any other ones?
No. Mm-mm.
You've been to a lot of them.
I have. I normally stay. I normally do stay.
Okay.
I might walk out like at Star Lake before the encore, just so I can get out and get home at a decent hour.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I mean, I can honestly say I've never really walked out of a show. Bon Jovi is the one that really sticks out in my head, that I was just so disappointed in, like, what is going on here.
Okay, were the others you obviously stayed for, but did you have some that were disappointing? Like, oh, they're not hitting on all cylinders tonight, or whatever.
Of course. There's tons of shows that were like, they didn't sound good, or they were muddy. I walked out of the Stanley Theater to the lobby when Aldo Nova was opening up for Rainbow.
Because he was too loud?
Oh, my God. I mean, Eric, I literally thought my rib cage was going to break. It was, you could just feel it hitting your chest, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is ridiculous. And we went up to the sound guy, and we're like, are you nuts? And we're like, what, 19? And he's
kids
like, get out of here.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's too freaking loud. This is, we weren't the only ones. Other people were leaving. We just went in the lobby and waited. He sounded much better with the door shut. But
it's
not that he sounded bad, but it was just so loud.
You could hear it better.
Oh my God, it was
ridiculous. Do you remember Rosebud?
No, of course.
So I saw Government Mule in '97, I think it was, at Rosebud, and I was really looking forward to hearing Warren Haynes. I was in the guitar thing and his tone and it was absolutely unbearable. It was because again, that place is concrete and steel.
Sure.
Remember that place?
Metropole.
It was just
right next to it.
I had to run to the bathroom to try to escape because I couldn't leave. The garage doors were not open, so I couldn't. If I left, I couldn't get back in.
Right.
I was in the bathroom in the stall, like going like this. I couldn't get through it. It was incredible, and I wasn't the only one. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
That makes for a miserable experience because I really wanted to be there for
ruining your hearing, for God's sakes. I mean, I wear earplugs to every show. And I've been wearing them probably since I was 20.
Yeah.
So I have bags of them in my car.
Yeah.
My husband has them. I have them in my purse.
I learned.
I wear them all the time. It's just not worth losing your hearing over stuff.
No, it's not.
Even local bands. If I go see a band in a bar, I have them on me because pop them in.
Isn't it interesting how loud how volume is so synonymous with hard rock?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, you were talking about shows. Metropole, I had tickets to see Gino Vanelli there.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh, him in this place, like you said, the metal, the concrete pillars and all that stuff. They must have spent all day working on the sound for that because he was perfection.
That's awesome.
He was so good and sounded fabulous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that was impressive for that, because to me that was a very hard room to do sound for.
Well, I think it was worse than Rosebud.
Yeah,
because it wasn't really set up for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
because it was kind of there, and then it kind of went around the corner a little bit. And Rosebud at least was an open room,
right?
I saw Warren Zevon there at least twice, I believe, at Rosebud. Saw a lot of bands there.
I saw
at
Warren
Rosebud.
Zevon at Rosebuds too.
Yeah. They had a lot of great bands.
I saw a band called the Rippingtons, a very famous jazz act in the '90s, like very popish.
Yeah.
They were fantastic too. Yeah, but any memories from Graffiti?
Oh my God, yes. Fabulous. I lived in that place.
I love that place too.
Lived in that place.
And that place that's all I thought that stuff always sounded good there.
Every day. I agree. The room was set up good, but Jeff, who used to do the sound there, was very good. Very good at what he did. And I think it was cool that the sound was upstairs and you could sit upstairs or down below. One of my favorite shows there was Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers.
Oh yeah,
I'm Not Your Man.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh my God, the band was fabulous. And then he got up on the upper deck, and they had like a little area that you could put your drinks on. He got up on that and did the duck walk with his guitar across the
that's very
he was
cool.
kicking people's drinks out of the way, or
That's
they were
very
moving their
cool.
drinks
That's
in.
very cool.
But I mean, they were fabulous. China Crisis. I'd never seen more people in that place than that night. It was oversold, I'm sure.
They didn't
it was
care.
unbearably hot. I mean, it was like, oh my God, it's so warm
was
in here.
there AC in that place?
I don't think so. I don't.
They used to pack them in like sardines in that place. But
saw
they
Gary
always
Moore
sounded
there.
good. Oh, and my best friend in the entire world, Mr. James Stewart, talks about that. What year? Late 80s?
87.
Yeah, talks about that concert every day of his life.
Yeah, that was. I mean, there were maybe 120 people there, and that was it. And Hurricane opened up for them.
You want to hear a funny story? He was with somebody, and Michelle Michaels stepped on his buddy's toe with high heels.
Oh no! Oh my God!
Sorry, Michelle, but that's a memory he always said to me. Yeah, that was a mistake, but it was an accident. But Michelle had like spiked his buddy with her shoes.
Yeah, I don't.
That was the memory they had.
I don't remember that. He was fabulous. I was just.
He was a great guitar player.
He's my favorite. My all-time.
Oh, is he really?
All-time
Did
favorite.
not know that.
Favorite guitarist, hands down.
And why? If you could articulate why he is.
Soulful. The sounds he gets from his guitar. Whether he's Thin Lizzy or he was doing the project with Phil Lynott or just doing his solo stuff and doing his blues stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he can make a guitar just
cry.
Yeah. And it's such passion and such. Yeah. When he passed away, he passed away he passed away the morning the Steelers played Green Bay in the Super Bowl. That morning. And that was, I was just, the Steelers losing didn't bum me out as bad as Gary Moore dying. Yeah.
That was a surprising thing too.
Yeah.
And a year later, I was with, doing some kind of Kiss event with Boogie Street, and I was with Eric Singer at the time, and Eric Singer had played with Gary Moore.
Yes. That
he
was
a drummer.
Yeah.
There's a very famous video concert from Ireland that Gary has in his package of releases.
He has a lot of videos that are.
Yeah, and I think Eric Singer's from that. But I don't know what the last song is. What's one of his very
I'm sure Eric
songs?
was with him on that tour.
I don't know about that either.
Because I remember meeting Eric backstage at a show, and he had just gotten a tattoo. And it was on his arm, and he had like a piece of plastic over it. And I mean, this wasn't when people were tattooed up the wazoo.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. So my curiosity, I'm like, oh, did that hurt? And I'm looking at it, and I go, well, what's the plastic for? And he says, well, I just had it done. They put salve on it, and that kind of keeps it protected or whatever. But I can't remember if that was with Gary Moore or not. But
he's in that video from Ireland now, and Singer's the drummer. But the last song, he's just milking this note. It seems like he just was one of those guitar players that could extract tone from that instrument like no one's business.
And he just got it. When he would play, he would get in a zone and just
and he could be fiery too,
especially the blues stuff. And was just like,
did you like the blues stuff?
I did.
I guess fans are either kind of like hit or miss with that.
I liked it. And actually, he put out a trance album. Trance music is kind of like it's real popular in Europe.
Like trance?
Yeah, it's
atmospheric, like
it's
got it.
It's kind of hard to explain. You hear it a lot in if you go to Saint Martin along the French side, a lot of the bars would play the trance music. So it's kind of atmospheric. It's kind of weird. Okay. But he did an album like that, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really good.
Guy was so talented.
Yeah. He just,
And he's part of the lore of a very famous Les Paul. I guess Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac had a Les Paul. Yep. I think Gary was in possession with it for, and now Kurt Hammett has. Is that right?
Kurt bought it off from Gary's estate. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but Gary Moore had that guitar for a long time. Yeah.
As we spin around here, I'm still going to nail her down. There had to be another concert that you didn't like, or that you thought was disappointing in some degree.
Oh.
Did you ever see Christine McVie when she was doing solo stuff?
No.
I think she holds the record, or she just passed away, didn't she?
Yes.
She had a very masterfully well done album in the 80s, a solo record. I don't think it sold very well, but it was really well done. The reviews were great on it. I wish I could have the name of it. But she came to Pittsburgh, and I think she was in the Syria Moss basement, and like a couple hundred people showed up.
Right.
I think. And I remember DV was not real kind to her at that moment. There was some jokes involved with that, and I think you guys were sponsoring the show too. So long time ago.
I'm trying to think, going to shows, maybe an opening act I didn't like.
Okay.
Twisted Sister.
Oh, yeah.
They opened up for Dio. Have you ever seen Dio?
Yeah, no one wants to see his sister if Dio's a headliner.
But I mean, you're sitting there, you're enjoying the show, they're doing I Want to Rock, whatever.
And
well, all of
like
a sudden, Dee Snider's up there, MF and everybody, and people, stand up MFers and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, come on. That's so juvenile. And then there was like a row of us, and it was a couple of friends of ours, a gang of us that went, and then there was other people, and this whole row sat. And he like looks at us, and we're on the other side of the arena. Get the F up. I'm like, I'm not getting, now that you did that, I'm not getting up, No. And I'm just like, do we have to do that? Skid Row, the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Sebastian Bach,
MF,
MF. Ronnie James Dio comes out. Good evening, my friend. Everything was my friends. Not one swear word, none of this, nothing. And it was just, there was a moik, but there was none of that. And I'm just like, how do you have to, is that where you get your yayas in your stage presence from screaming and, yelling at fans?
It's almost like there was a period in the mid 80s to going into late 80s where it's almost like there was management at these record companies telling these acts to step it up like that, because the swearing became like, Kiss went through a 2-year period where Stanley was up there doing the same stuff. I'm like, it's not.
Yeah, Skid Row. It got to the point where we'd sit there and count how many times Sebastian Bach dropped the F-bomb, and it's like, do you have to? Shouldn't your music just speak for itself? There's something about having a stage presence and all, but
I remember that being a thing in the mid '80s, and for surprising bands were going to vulgarity like that, and I thought that was a very
probably one of the weirdest shows I've seen was REM.
Okay.
At I think it was the Syria Mosque or the Fulton Theater. I can't remember.
The Fulton.
It was
holy crap.
On the Life's Rich pageant tour.
Okay.
And Michael Stipe stood and sang with his back to the audience the whole entire show. And it was
the whole show?
I'm almost sure it was the whole show.
Did he explain why he was doing
No, it was, and he wasn't even in, I understand the guy from Tool kind of does that too. Maynard. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
My husband said the one show he went to, he didn't even step into the spotlight or something. I'm like, well, what do you But it was so weird. It was, I think, my first or second time seeing REM, and I was all excited. And he comes out, and he might have sang, then he went back to the corner, and he's back in the corner, like they had like these fake windows, and he kind of just stood back there, and that's how he sang. And I'm like,
that's weird.
Phil Kurzik was sitting next to me. I'm like, is there something wrong? Is this not going to end well? I mean, is he going to just walk off the stage and the show's over? And then I see him at Star Lake a couple years later, and I'm in the front row, and he is just like drilling eyeball. Like, if you weren't singing along to the songs, I was afraid to sing because I was afraid I'd mess up the words and it'd screw him up and he'd come and kick me in the teeth. But yeah, and he was wearing guy liner at that time, and he just was so intense. And I'm like, is this the same guy that we saw a couple years ago? A fabulous band, love them, love them. But that was just that was a weird show. That was like, wow, somebody puts their back to the audience. That's kind of crazy.
Because I was always told that was like you almost insult the audience. That Miles Davis was notoriously playing he would go up and once in a while turn his back to the audience,
right.
And that was a big thing in that jazz. How dare you insult your audience that way?
Right.
So I didn't think that was I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some weird things about concerts that I look back on. But have you ever been to a concert where something weird happened and the show had to be stopped, or there was some kind of weird?
Yeah, Joe Perry at a place called Trackers. It was below the Stanley Theater, I believe.
Yeah.
And it was the Joe Perry project.
I remember
Let the
well.
music do it talking.
Didn't he play Mancini's Lounge the night before?
I believe so. But he came out, whoever from the radio station, I mean, this was back, I was in college, came out and did announcements, or somebody came out and did announcements, no smoking, no this, no that, it was a thing we all had to read. You have a citation, blah, blah, blah. He comes out, he's on Pluto. He's in another world. He lights up a cigarette. He's playing his thing. He's doing the eye hits. The thing's hanging out of his mouth. And here comes a cop. Walks out, stops the show, and writes him a citation right on stage.
Wait a second. That wasn't set up.
I don't think. No, he had to be. He was just, came on, gave him a citation, and he just like looked down like, yeah, whatever, get lost, dude, and just kept playing. But yeah, he was messed up. He was really messed up.
Yeah, he went through a bad period there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that album. I was so looking forward to that record. I'll never forget that. I let the music do the talking. He had a song on that album called Discount Dogs, which I thought was fabulous, but the rest of the album was terrible.
I mean, we were in college, somebody from the station was interviewing him at home, and, it's like a reel-to-reel tape or whatever, and the interview's going on, and you're ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, and he's like, hey man, hang on 1 second, I got to get that. He goes and answers the door, and he's talking to the person for like 5 minutes, and it's like, you're in the middle of an interview here, dude. But yeah, that was a bad time for
Aerosmith
Joe Perry.
Fired him, right, or however the split was. It was probably Tyler and him couldn't get along, right? I'm guessing. But didn't they have an album with another guitar player called Right in the Nuts or Night in the Ruts or
Night
something?
Night in the Ruts, yeah.
They switched the N and the R or whatever it was. And that's on here. It's a big disappointing record.
Yeah, I'd say yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, it's not Joe Perry. I mean, it's just, like when you start
good live, are they?
Swapping, what's that?
Aerosmith I never thought was good live.
Oh, really?
Nah.
Oh, see, I don't agree with that.
Really? You thought they were great live?
I mean, I haven't seen them. I saw them the last time they were here. They were good. They were still bringing it.
You think?
But yeah, like you're talking about seeing them back in the 80s. Yeah, they were fabulous.
I would agree with you.
That's the problem when you've seen somebody so many times. It's just like, you still hang on to the glory days of when
of course.
We were all young. I mean, that's just all
we
part
still
of it,
are young, Chris.
Growing up and all that. But you talk about weird things that happened at shows. I saw Diver Down tour. This was the last general admission show that I can recall being at before they stopped doing the general admission floor, where that was every man for themselves on the floor.
Remember how that used to go?
Yeah.
They cut the door open. Kids would start running.
Right.
I remember
then the Who had that whole situation in Cincinnati. But so we're like two rows up from the floor, and it's hazy, smoking. People are doped up and all this stuff. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, stop that man! And you look over, and like the crowd just all steps back, and there's a guy who's got a knife wound from the top of his head down to here, a gash, and he's just bleeding profusely. And I stand up and I'm like, somebody help that man. And my boyfriend at the time now, my husband, grabs me by the hand and goes, sit down and just shut up. Don't get involved. And I'm like, but look, he's bleeding profusely. He goes, they'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So that was brutal. And then...
What band was this?
This was Van Halen.
Oh, man.
Diver Down.
Diver Down. Okay.
It was just, you could tell there was a scuffle. Something was going on because you could see, I was like 2 rows up, so I could see kind of above people's heads. Uh-huh. And then all of a sudden, something went nuts. And then everybody moved, and this poor guy's like just kind of dazed, and and he's got this knife cut. And I'm like, oh dear God. So then during the show, Van Halen's stage was really low on that tour, and they had a band, I forget the name of the band. They were a brass band that played before them.
Okay.
They were notorious for getting like a band that wouldn't show them up. They were always great at that.
Cool in a Gang, right?
Right. So on this show, the stage wasn't sky high. So the band's playing. David Lee, this is like, if you're looking at the stage, this would be stage, well, to your left.
Okay.
David Lee Roth is over. He's got the stage. He's got the mic stand, and he's singing. All of a sudden, this kid jumps on from the other side of the stage, and he is full court press running to take David Lee Roth down without missing a beat. David Lee Roth, I don't know how he could see him because his head was turned, takes the mic stand, goes like this, and just clotheslines this dude right back into the crowd and goes right back to the song. It was glorious. It was glorious.
Okay. Have you seen the Dio documentary from a few years ago?
The one that just came out.
Oh, did that just come out?
Yeah, it came out in like September, October. Actually saw it in a movie theater.
Oh, I thought that was a decade old. After he passed away, I thought they came out with that. No. Wow. So I just watched that on Netflix.
Yes.
Because I thought maybe I just knew it was around, but I just didn't do it. And coincidentally, last year, I listened to the audiobook on his, which I think spanned the era of the 60s all the way to I guess the end of the first record, and then like the second part of it hasn't been done yet. So it was the first part. There's two parts,
right?
So I was able to reference all that stuff. I learned so much about that man, and I got way more respect from him now than I always had respect for Dio.
They only had it out in the movie theaters for like 2 nights.
Oh, you didn't see it yet?
No.
Oh,
I went to the movie theater and saw it.
What's your thoughts of that?
Oh, I thought I was fabulous, but
I thought it was well done.
What I didn't understand, and they kind of glossed over it, and was the fact that they were talking about Rainbow, and didn't really. I was disappointed there wasn't anything from Richie Blackmore, but
he wouldn't contribute to it.
Not surprised.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that was all done by Ronnie's wife Wendy.
Yep.
So maybe he wasn't asked. I don't know. But the weird thing about it is, in that, if you caught it, they said that Ronnie James Dio made no money from Rainbow until after he died, and I'm like, what? I never knew that, and it's like, why? They just completely glossed over it.
Well, you know Richie, right?
And I'm just what? What was it him? I don't know. I don't want to always say Richie's the bad guy and everything, because it could have been the record label. I don't know. But
I just thought it was great because when they talked about his history, he wouldn't write the pop song.
Right.
He understood what he loved and
right.
what he was great at,
right.
and he would not deviate from
right.
that. And I thought that was great.
Right. He didn't.
I thought that was great.
There is a situation where there is an artist who did not conform to what was going on the radio or whatever. Ronnie James Dio was Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well done. I came after watching it. It was only a little, I don't know how long ago. Maybe 6 months. No, it wasn't 6 months. 6 weeks maybe. Anyways, the point was I came across that saying, number one, this has been out for years. How did I miss this? But it's such a travesty. Like when you think about how sad that is, that it came to such an end, because he was kind of older than most of his band members anyways.
I think this past year in 22 he'd have turned 80.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what a set of pipes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how him playing 50s music.
So he would have been like in his 70s. Pretty close to the 70s, I think, when he died.
Yeah, it's about right.
Maybe late 60s.
Right, 2010?
Yeah, it was somewhere. Yeah, so that would be like 13 years ago, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, so maybe his late 60s, possibly.
What's your memory of that? Like, were you aware of Rainbow and the mechanisms of the band and who was what and who he was? And or were you just like, oh, I think he's a singer Rainbow. Oh, he's joining Sabbath. Was it kind of like a casual observation, or did you know?
Because my husband is a diehard, loves Richie Blackmore.
Ah,
and as long as we've been together,
that's
loves Richie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio and all of that. Yeah, he's been a big fan. So
I knew of Rainbow as a kid, but they were. Because I heard him on the radio,
right? And
then when Dio he joined Black Sabbath, I'm like, oh, that's the singer from Rainbow. I didn't know much more than that, right?
Yeah, because really, when you look at Rainbow, it wasn't until Graham Bonnet joined the band, and Since You've Been Gone, that's a song that nobody in the band even wrote. That was Russ Ballard that wrote that.
Yep.
That's when that they hit top 40 with that.
Which is what, according to that docu, that's what Blackmore was looking for.
Right. Which is kind of shocking.
It's squarely weird to me.
Yeah.
That was the destiny of it. That's what he. And was you think? I mean, you're speculating. You think it was money that he wanted, or you think it was just they want that mass acceptance?
I don't. You have no idea what the mindset is on something like that. I mean, hey, Deep Purple's Machine Head was incredibly a great album.
It was heavy though.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, they got a lot of notoriety for that. I mean, they were a really good band and a great band live, and then you do your own thing and you have like probably one of the best singers in the business, and then it's hard to pinpoint, because where Richie Blackmore has turned to now is just it's mind blowing. He's doing
medieval stuff,
medieval music. He's
like 20
married
years
to
that, right?
a beautiful young girl. He's got 2 kids.
Right.
And he's doing videos now, and my husband just sent this to me.
He won't go electric though, will he? He won't go back and get with like John Lord and those guys.
No, I doubt.
Lord still with us?
I doubt.
Did Lord pass away?
He died. Yeah, he passed away.
Who's left in that
Ian
band?
Ian Gillan is.
I love his voice, and that's a very interesting thing. When you say that, people are like, I'll take Ian Gillan or not. But
the drummer.
Ian Pace?
Ian Pace is still alive.
John Glover?
Ian Pace. Roger Glover's still with him. But Roger went with Rainbow.
He did.
He was with Rainbow for the longest time. His bass player.
He did.
Yeah. And then he did Joe Lynn Turner and had success with Joe Lynn Turner,
who had a great voice.
He has a great
too.
voice. Yeah.
Did you see him recently? He looks completely different. I didn't recognize him. He went completely bald shaven.
He's not completely bald. He has alopecia.
I didn't know
He's had
that.
it since he was a kid.
Maybe that's why his look was so striking. Maybe because I didn't see eyebrows either too.
But he's had that since he was a kid. He's been wearing a wig since he was 14, according to him. He's been wearing a wig since he was 14.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
He wore a wig in high school and all that stuff, yeah.
See, so...
Because I saw the picture too, and he had kind of guy liner and black nail polish, and he's holding a snake or white snake or something like that. And
That's
I'm
what
like,
I saw. That's what I saw.
Joe Lynn Turner. He's a
and
really
women
sweet...
loved him,
Really
man.
sweet guy.
I mean, that was
really nice. Just a really good, down-to-earth, really cool guy. But, you see this, and I'm like, oh my gosh. What he must be really heavy metal. And then I read an article that he's like, no, I'm sometimes you see him with his wig and sometimes he's bald.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but he has alopecia. He's had it since he was a kid.
And a couple of those hits he had with Rainbow, which were commercial, but I love those songs. Like Stone Cold was one of them. It was a nice era. It was a good album.
Straight Between the Eyes was in town at the Stanley Theater in the mid 80s, or early 80s, 82. Right. So there was a group of us that got tickets and we got front row. No, my husband is in all of his glory because we got front row. We're right in front of Richie Blackmore. So we get to the show, and as we're walking up to the pit, we're saying, hang on, somebody needs to talk to you guys. And we're like, what? So somebody comes to us and says, we're sorry you can't sit in the front row because they use pyrotechnics, and first row, maybe even first two rows, we weren't allowed to sit there. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I said, that's not cool.
Not at all.
So I said, we want to see, can we see somebody in charge? So Ed Travaseri comes out, and I did this story on my Facebook page, and I'm like, I feel bad. But Ed comes out, and I'm like, hi. I said, we bought these tickets. I'm in college. Uh-huh. And I said, we bought these tickets thinking we're sitting in the front row. And I said, now we're not going to be allowed to sit here. I mean, we came all the way from California University, an hour away, or whatever, to be at the show. And my boyfriend's a big, Rainbow fan. And he says, well, I'll get you good seats. And I'm like, well, can you do something else? I mean, can we meet him, or can we go backstage after the show's over? And my boyfriend's like, wow, she's got some balls. She's got gonads. That's awesome. And I'm like, well, I mean, we should be rewarded for something,
should
because
be compensated,
we were in the front row, and now we can't sit there. And we were for months. Let's not say months, because in those days, you bought tickets maybe 4 weeks before the show came to town. You weren't sitting on stuff for a year, so that we had that. But so
that's great.
Show goes on. They're fabulous. So Ed says, I cannot promise you anything, but I'll see what I can do. I'm like, okay, fine. Okay. He says, show's over. Come meet me at the door over the side, and if we can get you back, we'll get you back. I'm like, okay, fine. So we're standing there. He says, okay, come on back. We all get a T-shirt. I'm like, okay, that's nice. So we're standing there, and the next thing you know, here comes Joe Lynn Turner. Here comes Roger Glover. Here comes Bobby Rondinelli. Here comes Dave, oh my gosh, Rosenthal, their keyboard player. Yeah. So we're talking, and we're getting things signed. Our library cards are getting signed.
Cool. That's cool.
We didn't have Sharpies for the T-shirts and stuff. So Joe Lynn Turner is just like the sweetest guy, and like you said, I'm like drooling over him. He's very attractive.
Women loved him.
Roger was really funny, and everybody was just really cool. So the next thing you know, I see these white boots coming down the steps, and it's Richie Blackmore. So I hit my husband, my boyfriend, and I said, Ron, that's him. So he walks over, and the steps came down this way, and then he had to go around and then down the steps to the basement. So we're all standing around, and my boyfriend goes up to him and says, Mr. Blackmore, Mr. Blackmore, may I please have your autograph? And Richie's eating a banana, and he just keeps walking. And Ron politely, Mr. Blackmore, may I please have your autograph? And I'm standing there looking at Joe Lynn Turner, and Joe Lynn Turner's got his arm up against a road case, just watching, like, okay, let's see how this goes. So Richie's walking past, gets to the top of the steps, starts walking down, says, Mr. Blackmore, may I please have your autograph? And Richie turns around and just looks at Ron and eats the banana and keeps walking. And Ron says, hey, Richie. And he goes, I used to like you. And I'm like, oh, no, we're going to get kicked out. And I looked at Joe Lynn Turner and I said, why is he like that? Wow. And he says, because he's Richie Blackmore. And I was like, you got me, But I mean, I think my husband was like, he expected that, because that's how he is.
He was prepared.
Right. He was like, just was an initial reaction, and it was just like, oh my gosh, But I'd met Roger and Joe Lynn Turner other times after that, and still just really cool guys, really nice.
Most artists are,
yeah,
right?
Richie's just Richie, and he has this persona and all this stuff. I mean, my husband saw him, I think the year before that or 2 years before that. He came out, he's playing. He does that thing with his hands, and he's playing, and he doesn't like this. Somebody's not doing something right. And he cracks open a Heineken. He pours it over my husband's head. He was in the front row. He got his guitar slide. He crashes his guitar, gets pieces of the guitar. We have it in a box at home. And then there was one year he comes out. Now he's doing this, and somebody's not doing something right. Drops the guitar, walks off stage. That was it. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I think they played like 4 songs or something like that. So
that pissed me off.
But if you know who he is and what he's all about, it's just like, okay, that's why it's so weird now, because of what he's doing, and he seems really happy being married and having small children. Yeah. And you know, he finally found his niche. I mean, to see the Blackmore's night, they're fabulous. Yeah, they're fabulous. I saw them at the Rex Theater years ago.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to this. Maybe it was that show or a prior show. I was on to that because I think he started doing that like in 97, 98. Is that right?
It was
way back.
Maybe around then. I don't know how long he's been married to Candace.
Yeah.
But like I follow her on Instagram, and they're in Aruba, and she's like looking out over her deck with palm trees behind. I'm like, you think Richie Blackmore is sitting down at the pool drinking a Heineken?
I never got his thing. Like I respect. So how could you not love rock and roll? But I mean, to me, it was just about equally as much with Lord. I mean, Lord and Blackmore together, I thought created that wall of sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, when I think of Deep Purple, I just think of like the Hammond just blowing my eardrums out.
Yep.
Because like his guitar, his Strat tone was kind of like on its own was kind of thin. Like you needed to have that drive behind it. Where some guitars have like when I hear Eddie Van Halen play, I never think of the word thin. When I hear Tony Iommi play, I don't think about thin. When I hear Richie play, it's great, but it's thin. Yeah. You almost need to have that accompaniment.
Yeah, but that was that whole sound of Machine Head was just so
like nothing else.
I don't want to say lush, because it wasn't lush, because it was kind of I don't even know the word for it. It's just Highway Star and Lazy and and just
it's
such
an
incredible album.
It's the
such
album.
An incredible album.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And in terms of, you talk to a lot of guitar players, Cris, they'll tell you, a lot of them will say that Blackmore's the best ever. Yeah. He's up there in that conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, what is the one song? You sit down, you hand me a bass, what am I playing? Do, 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 do.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy about that? What you're hearing is not guitar. Yeah. It's the organ.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap. I don't know.
I think there always was a little guitar in that though too. There wasn't it?
Oh, there's a lot of guitar in a song. I
thought it was the both of them playing it together.
Was it? Maybe it is.
That's what I thought.
Maybe it is. But that band is, and it's funny because it took them a long time to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, didn't it? They weren't in like Zeppelin and the Stones and the rest. It took a while for them to get in. They got in though.
Yeah, that's just a whole.
I just wonder why. I honestly wonder why Blackmore did not return to play some metal. Before COVID happened, he was going to go back out with Rainbow. I didn't know that.
Another version of Rainbow. It wouldn't have been Joe Lynn Turner and the rest of the guys that might have played with him, Roger Glover or anybody like that. But he was talking about going out and redoing Rainbow, and then
that would have been unbelievable.
Then COVID happened,
and then he didn't readdress it since.
I mean, there's so many great songs from Rainbow.
Yeah, and that's and that band had all those little weird eras.
Yeah.
But it was created. Was it created in a response to Deep Purple? Like I didn't understand like why he went and did that. Because was he fighting with Deep Purple? Did he want to take music in a different direction?
I can't remember the background on that. I don't remember why he left, or if they just called it quits for a while, or he wanted to do something else. It's just I don't remember. I don't remember that.
So the long feud between Roger and David and Floyd, right? Mm-hmm. It continues.
Oh yeah.
And it goes back to the 82 album, The Final Cut. Was that pretty much the last thing they did together? Does that sound about right?
So. Yeah, because I think Final Lapse.
Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Momentary Lapse of Reason. That
with David in the band.
Yeah.
So, have you been following that at all?
I saw Roger Waters when he was in town last year, year before, whatever it was. He was fabulous. Political, absolutely, but if you walk into his show not thinking you're not going to hear anything, then shame on you for not paying attention or reading reviews or whatever.
It kind of goes with the territory of being
correct. But what a show! I mean, he was fabulous. He was fabulous. The stage setup, the sound. I mean, when they do the helicopter. I mean, honestly, it sounded like it was moving throughout PPG Paints Arena. I mean, I'm looking up. I'm like, wow. And then you'd hear it go away. And then it would come back around again. I'm like, wow, that's impressive, But yeah, I mean, he was fabulous. But there's a lot of stuff there that's political that I kind of tune out. And I'm all over. I'm done with.
In my world, doesn't belong in music.
No, right.
But I just look at that and I'm so bummed. Like monumental moments in music for me. Like if Zeppelin would have found the way to continue, I would have loved that.
Yeah.
If Floyd wouldn't have broken up like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm not saying that what Gilmour didn't do with Floyd wasn't great. I mean, they sold it, they toured a lot, they sold, but there's just that magic just gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Zeppelin, it was Bono. John Bonham was a big part of that band. I mean, talk about a guy who plays gigantic, like tree limbs for sticks, and then plays so hard. Cozy Powell, yeah.
They could have got him. They could have got him.
That's true. But I mean, I think they were really crushed. That happened. I really do believe that, and maybe it was just too hard for them to go on.
I think it was a weird thing where I think John Paul Jones would have continued. I believe that. I think Robert was so close to Bonham that was the biggest problem, coupled with the fact that Page was in a bad place physically at the time.
Right, and didn't he die at Jimmy Page's house or something like that?
I think so. A lot of weird stuff happens around Page's life, though.
Yeah, but I mean, so there might be some animosity there. It's like, hey, why didn't I don't know if Jimmy Page was at the house at the time.
I didn't know that either.
Did somebody blame him for not keeping their eye open on him or something like that? But I mean, when you look at John Paul Jones, I mean, there's talk about a guy who gets no credit. He's the one who did all the arranging of everything for that band, especially with the strings and stuff like that.
Did you ever see him solo?
No, I've never seen him.
I've seen him twice solo, and that's just you sit and watch what he's doing and playing. It's just mind-numbingly good. And he just quietly went into
he's just the guy that's there and does his job and doesn't seem like he, causes any trouble or anything like that. Well, when they did the Kennedy honors and Hart sang.
That's 2012. You realize that was that long ago. It's 11 years ago.
To watch that and to see Robert Plant beautiful. Get teared up and why? Is it because
I think about that
you're
too.
older, or is it causing you to get melancholy? You'll never get back to that. You miss, John Bonham. You miss the heydays, or it's just, maybe sitting there thinking, "Wow, we were something pretty spectacular," because that was just, I was like, "Oh, look, he's tearing up," and he was trying to hide it there at one point, like. You know,
well,
like
if you look at Page's eyes too, there's water in his eyes too, but he's more enjoying it. To see Jimmy Page rocking out was phenomenal.
Right.
He was like really getting into it, you know, because I think he's older than Robert. I think Jimmy's got to be 81, 82 now.
I don't think he's 80 yet.
He's not?
No, I don't think so. I think he's probably 78, maybe something like that, possibly.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like Steven Tyler turned 75 this weekend, I think. It's like, how did we get here?
Doesn't seem. I think Jeannie's almost 74, 75. Stanley's 71.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that doesn't seem possible.
Well, here's the crazy thing. Steven Tyler is older than Vicki Lawrence from the Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, get out of here. Are you kidding? Mama's family?
I think they were born on the same day, but a year apart, and she's a year younger than he is. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ozzy. What's going on there? Like, he says he's retired, but now he's not retired. Like,
well, he's retired from touring. He won't tour anymore.
But that doesn't mean he won't do a show here or there, right? Like a special. I
don't know that, unless he does something like an appearance on a television show for an award show or something like that.
Maybe he doesn't go out sitting in a chair like Phil Collins is doing.
I mean, I think that last thing he did with Post Malone on one of the award shows, I think he sat in a chair, I believe. Prior to him announcing his retirement, I had read an article that was saying that just getting out of a seated position from a couch was beyond difficult for him.
I believe
it. The simple things we all take for granted, he can no longer do.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, geez, how are you going to do this tour? And then I think like 2 weeks later, he said he's done touring.
It kind of makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think the average fan understands the amount that physically gets extracted by those folks for that 2 hours, right?
Absolutely.
These guys are in their like 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and with somebody like him, I think he likes to put on a good show for his fans.
Yeah, the energy. For sure.
But I mean, was he anything great? No, he just walked stage to stage like a little old man. But there's something about him that he brings it.
He's endearing to people.
Exactly.
You know, he has a charisma. It's hard to explain. I mean, it's when you sit and think about what Sabbath was and that whole imagery and the darkness of all of it, and then to see him break out and become like I look at Snoop Dogg with gangster rap in the early 90s, and he's become like this lovable kind of character that's been adopted as being acceptable by everybody.
Right. And whether he smokes a ton of pot or not. Doesn't matter.
Ozzy kind of went that way.
Right.
You know, Ozzy kind of became that as well.
Well, I think the television show really helped in that respect. The Osbourne show that they had.
It showed that he was real.
Right. And hey, he's a normal guy with kids, can't figure out how to do something. Sharon! You know, that type of stuff. And I think in the beginning of that show, it really was...
It wasn't scripted.
It was reality.
Yep.
But then I think after maybe season one, then it was, okay, let's set things up to make it look, just for things to be funny.
Yeah, they didn't have to do that. I know Simmons' show was very scripted.
Yes,
the Family Jewels thing.
Right.
And I think Gene was hoping to have the same success that Ozzy had with that. I think he had some success. I don't think it was quite as good, though.
Right.
It didn't come off as being organic.
Exactly. And it's when it is organic, that's, to me, when it works. You know, I mean, the Osbourne show in the beginning was so the dog's pooping, and there's Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, cleaning up dog poop. I mean, come on. It doesn't get any better than that. He's a normal guy, just like the rest of us. He puts his underwear on and, his pants on the same way we all do. Toilet paper sticks to the bottom of his shoe like it does everybody else. He's just a normal guy,
Fans, I've noticed that over the course, and I was, definitely guilty of it for a lot of my life. Fans have a hard time understanding that simple fact that their music heroes are just doing the same stupid stuff they're doing every day.
Sure. And we're getting older. I mean, they're all getting older. I'm glad some artists are still out there. As long as you can still feel like you can bring a quality show to people.
The Who.
More power to you. Yeah. The last time I saw The Who, I thought they were fabulous.
I know, they're going on
again. And I know we've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
You give me the Stones or The Who, I go with The Who every time.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
I like the Stones, and I'm still amazed that Jagger can run around like that. But musically, like from a power standpoint, you just can't beat the Who. There's
Right.
just a dynamic there that
That's
really,
how I've always felt.
it's a dynamic.
Kind of keep that opinion to myself because I know people are like, what, you don't like the Rolling? It's not I don't like the Rolling Stones. If I have my choice between the Who or the Stones, I'm always with the Who.
Here's my, okay, because I get that asked that question too. The differential I always say is that with the Stones, there's so much of the same old.
Yes.
And it's a horrible thing to say, but it's generally like from song to song to song to song, it's kind of got the same vibe. You know, they're just
kind of
bluesy,
basic.
kind of like moving, and you hear Jagger's voice.
Right.
Invariably. Once in a blue moon, you'll hear a song from
Keith.
sung by Keith, but very rarely.
Right.
Where the Who, you have this weird dynamic, and there's texture, and there's different key signatures, and there's different time signatures.
Right.
That's that level of complexity.
Well, and it seems their music is more complex as well. How they write, Love, Rain or Me, Bubba O'Reilly.
There's texture, There's mood. There's mood.
Yeah.
Whereas the Stones, like, you know what you're gonna get.
Right. And I like I said, I like the Stones. I love them live. But if I have that choice between somebody tells me, do you like the Stones or the Who better? I always go with the Who.
So they're going out on the. I think the Stones are going to go out on the 60th anniversary tour, right? That's what. Just because 2023 would be 60
supposed to put a new album out.
60 years.
Wow.
Would you ever have thought, if I would have, let's say I would have met you waiting in line for the Winger show in like 88, and we're sitting there talking. You weren't in radio in 88, were you? Or you were. You just got, well, you got in radio in what year?
84.
Okay. So you were a couple years in the radio, and I started talking to you, were waiting in line, and I looked at you and said, hey, you know what? In 2023, Kiss is still going to be out there with makeup on doing that. Would you believe that?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Or the Stones. No. The Stones are going to be out there in 2023.
Sure.
Doing the 60th anniversary tour.
I wouldn't have.
I would have told, because I think in the teenage years, I don't know how you felt. I would like to hear your opinion of this. When you're a teenager, you're still in that position, I think, where you're looking at adulthood like adult stuff. And my music was mine. I was very parochial about it. This was my thing.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I didn't ever think about taking it into my 20s or my 30s. Like I didn't think it was going to last forever because I figured I'm going to move on to different adult things at some point in time.
Right. Well, I think you still hang on to those bands that you liked when you were younger.
Yeah.
And you still hold them close because I think, like, you know, for me, it's like, you know, wait a minute. I liked Hall & Oates back in the 70s. Like, 72. I was like just a kid, you know, but, you know, I knew and loved their music before Voices came out and then Private Eyes and, you know, H2O and all that stuff. So, you know, it's like, they're my band.
Yeah.
Journey's kind of the same way, you know, although I you know, didn't really know Journey that well.
The early stuff
with until Steve Perry joined.
Yeah.
But Pablo Cruz, the same thing. You know, there's certain bands that I liked as a kid, and I still hold them dear because you kind of feel like, wait a minute, I discovered these guys.
Bingo.
They're my band.
I felt that way about Prince.
They're my band. Yeah.
My kid, when Purple Rain came out, I was like, I'm done with them now, because I had For You and I had 1999. That's when I was like, I'm listening to Prince, and people were like, don't listen to Prince. That's R&B. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I like what's good.
Right. Exactly.
Right. But then when finally the rest of the people got it, I felt that way about Rush. When Permanent Waves came out, I liked it, but I'm like, man, I was there in Hemispheres, and I was there.
Sure.
And I was there at Farewell to Kings and Permanent Waves, and now that you like it,
yeah. I just remember driving around my mom's car with listening to Permanent Waves, the cassette.
What an album! So I had that argument with everybody. What's a better record, Permanent Waves or Moving Pictures, you know? And
Permanent Waves for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Me. Yeah.
Permanent
Waves for me.
And why? Why would you say that?
They're just, well, I mean, Spirit of the Radio. I mean, yes, it gets played out the wazoo, but that's a song that speaks
Never
to me
enough.
Because when you listen to the words, that speaks to me.
Oh, okay.
You're the friendly voice in the morning.
Yeah, got it.
You know,
got it.
And then you have Entre Nous. And then you've got different strings.
It's a masterpiece.
So you have all this different stuff where
different textures.
Yeah, you know, Moving Pictures.
Natural Science.
You know.
Yeah, Moving Pictures had those some
Grace
of those
Under
commercial
Pressure.
songs.
Love that album too. You know.
You do.
Yes. Yes. Well,
I See Red.
Should I be sleek?
Red. No. I want to talk about that for a second. Like, because that album gets bashed a lot. And the reason I think it's because people were willing to accept Signals with all the electronics because they were coming off the high of permanent. But the next one being in the same vein, I think.
Yeah.
There wasn't really. I think Distant Early Warning was a somewhat.
Love that song.
There's a big boom in that song.
So good.
You familiar with that? Okay,
good stuff.
It's good. But that wasn't there wasn't a big hit on that record, I don't think.
I think for me, I like it because I was working at National Record Mart when that album came out. And there were a couple of us, and I was probably the only girl that liked rock.
Okay.
Where all the other girls like the Princes and the Bruce Springsteens and, some poppy stuff, the Beaver Brown Band that, what was it?
I got a fade in my pocket.
What's the
ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Johnny and the Cruisers or Eddie and the Cruisers album came out. I mean, that was one we couldn't keep at National Record Mart. So
really?
Oh
it
my
sold
God,
out.
it was insane. Eddie and the Cruisers, Purple Rain, Springsteen's Born in the USA.
In 84.
Yeah, I mean, those three were one. Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun came out that year, too. But, I mean, Eddie and the Cruisers, and people are coming in asking for this. I'm like, what is this, Eddie and the Cruisers? They're like, what's a movie? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if
it was a movie about 50s
I don't even know if I've ever even seen it.
Why did that
and
resonate?
I'm like, wait a second. No, are you sure you're not talking about Bruce Springsteen? Because you listen to it.
Our parents were watching that movie.
And I'm like, it sounds like Springsteen. It was John Cafferty, But I mean, at the same...
And Puffy was gone.
Same texture and feel in the way phrases, Springsteen phrases and stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, that we couldn't keep that in. But I remember, had the album, open it up, put it on, Grace Under Pressure, and then I think we did Rush was coming to town that year.
Yeah, I saw that tour. It's a great tour.
The National Record Marts would do these things where you'd have this space in the store where you could put up a record of a band that was coming or maybe a new album coming out, and somebody could decorate it, and then the head honchos would walk around the stores and
cool.
compare, and then you'd win a prize.
That's cool.
So I took picture flats of Grace Under Pressure with the woman's face, and I made like a bigger one, and I had them like kind of bent, and so we'd listen to that record, and I'm decorating it, and then I won the prize for the store. So
I like the album. I just thought that it was,
but it's more than just. Sometimes it's more than just how good the album is. It's a time and a place in my life that I think that's why. Music. Exactly.
I mean, the next album was Power Windows. They had the song Big Money.
Big Money. Yeah.
And it was. That late 80s thing
goes
was
around the world. But
it was hard to watch him as years went on and he had to sing at a lower register. It was I mean, as a fan, it was like not hard, but it was like, oh man, I can see it now. He's got to bring stuff down.
We've talked about that before. All these singers that really hit it high paid for it down the road. Steve Perry, Geddy Lee, Lou Gramm, Rick Emmett.
Oh man!
I mean, talk about a guy who. Well, I think Steve Perry is a great singer, but I think
the touring. It's too much touring for Journey, right?
Studied great music and knew how to breathe and stuff. Where people like maybe Rick Emmett, but I mean his voice was like whoa, and it was like, wow, can you really sing that high? And now he says I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Why did I do that? Like, were we that
verbal
stupid?
Gymnastics.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, but.
Did you have a good time?
I did. Thank you very much for having me.
I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Sure. Absolutely. Anytime.
When this has been like 6 months, a little bit too long, we have to do a little quicker than that next time.
Absolutely.
When you have time.
I'm free. I have all the time in the world.
And they can find you on DV and all over the usually, what is it?
I'm usually on DVE on Saturdays from 3 until 7, and then usually sometimes on Sundays anywhere between 9 and 6.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I fill in for everybody when they're on vacation.
You do. So, I find you on Electric Lunch once in a while.
Yes, absolutely. That's fun. That's a good time. That's a really good time. Yeah. And you can also find me on Cris Winter Radio. That's my Facebook page. If you like stories and
it's great.
Going back and remembering concerts and things like that, I do a lot of that. No politics.
Nope.
I posted a picture of Ted Nugent the other day.
I'm sure
from a Damn Yankee show, and I was just like...
Did you get flamed? I saw it.
I was hitting post, and I'm like, should I write something on the bottom? Like, I'm all about music. I don't care what your politics are, Ted Nugent. I'm talking about him as a musician, guitar player, in the Damn Yankees. That's it. And only one person said something.
Good.
And that was it. And I was just like, good. People understand. People understand.
Oh, I love the musician, Ted.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's when he wants to talk about other things. It's just,
but,
it's not for me. He's right to do it. I don't care.
Even if you post something on somebody who's a liberal or conservative or whatever, it's just like, that's not what this is about. It's about music, and that's all I care about. I don't care about anybody's political. Nobody wants to know my political views. I don't care about anybody else's.
And isn't it interesting how it's ironic because music's supposed to be the great unifier?
It is. Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah. But people, I think, understand with me. I'm all about nostalgia. I talk about silly things that we grew up with, and animals and dogs. That's the only time. I don't know where you come up with all this content. I don't know where because like you got a background story on almost all these bands. I'm like, wow, I don't think I know jack crap about this band. Like, how did you know that? No, it's just crap. Well, like I tell you, ask me about my 401k. I have no idea. Ask me who the drummer was in Rainbow on the Straight Between the Eyes tour.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
man?
That's it. It's the beauty of music, though. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
All right, friend.
Take care.
We're out.
See ya.